Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Whole Magazine podcast with your host, Brandon Cox.
Hello. Thank you so much, Walker. Welcome to episode 39 of the Whole Magazine. I am joined by the usual culprits. We have Marcus.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Doing quite well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So glad to be back in the quote-unquote studio. We are joined by Walker.
I gave the intro.
Yes, good. Or unless maybe it was a recording from a previous episode. They
You
won't
could,
know.
nobody would know.
No one would know except.
No one would know.
Wait, I haven't heard Walker for the rest of the episode. Crazy. We have Cornette
How's it going?
lurking in the corner, and then since he doesn't have headphones, he doesn't know how to work his mic. Oh no.
I'm speaking
There you
into
go. I
it,
can hear
motherfucker.
you
Shut the
now.
fuck up.
So the issue
Yeah.
is that you can't hear what your levels
Yeah.
sound like. So
Yeah,
it's going to be
fair
a
enough.
little odd.
It's gonna
Fair
be
enough.
odd. It's gonna be very strange.
Yeah.
I can hear peaking it a little bit, I think.
Yeah,
but
I'm adjusting him as he speaks because
yeah.
But we're also joined by two other people. We have, what would you like to be called? Miss Ballard? Angie. Say,
It would
come
be
on, come on,
Mrs.
come on.
if we're going to
Hi.
be grammatically
Hello,
correct about
welcome
things.
to the show. It's great to have you. And then we also have another person.
Oh, yes. It's
Oscar.
awesome. Yep.
Hello, Oscar.
This isn't your
How
first
are you?
time, is it?
I'm doing well.
Is
This
this your
is
first
his
time?
This is my first
Oh,
time.
wow.
It's also
Podcast,
Angie's
yeah.
first time.
Officially.
First time officially on
Well,
the show.
she sat in during the last Trivia Thursday, but she didn't.
did, yes.
She didn't
Yes.
say anything.
No.
I was just the fly on the wall that day.
Yeah, providing answers. It
Except she was
great.
answering all my questions.
answering all the questions. It was delightful.
I feel like I've been
And
like
you
basically
still lost.
But hey, we have some things to do. As usual, we have the alcohol review.
Wow, look at that beautiful engineered sound that I'm
Oh,
talking
yeah.
over. So we have Kahana Royale macadamia nut liqueur for some reason. It says rich essence of roasted macadamias is then carefully blended with grain neutral spirits and exotic natural flavors to create Kahana Royale, a liqueur as rare and mystical as macadamia itself. So
What? Okay, we're gonna just sip it, and I'm gonna because no one's discussed the price, so we're gonna guess the price. But yeah, here we have it. We have
$20.
We have our drinks. Dude, I just can't get over the smell, dude. It is like
The smell.
It's like a punch
It's definitely
of
it's
strong.
macadamia.
Insanely strong.
It's crazy.
super sweet.
It's like you cracked open that Subway wrapper and like all you smell is the macadamia nut.
No, you know
Very
those
sweet
you know
and it
those
feels
candies
like
that
it's
your
stronger
grandpa
than it
used to
is.
have? Those
the caramel
caramel.
So
candies,
sweet.
yeah,
Yeah.
in like the little glass bowl.
I think what we utilize it for though in coffee was pretty good.
Poured in coffee. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
we did a French vanilla creamer with a dash of this macadamia liqueur and some Woodford Reserve whiskey, and that blended it up and poured it over coffee. It was delicious. Yeah, that is good stuff. I think $20 is not bad. We already know it's probably around 20%, 21%, right? For
Yeah.
liqueur,
21%.
21%. Okay.
I'm guessing
21, yeah.
32.
42 proof.
Okay, so yeah, probably around. It's all natural flavors. I didn't hear
Natural
anything.
flavorings.
Natural flavorings.
That's what it says.
I'd
Distilled
say,
in Hawaii.
Ooh, and we're over here in the States. $30.
Yeah, see, I'm saying 32.
I'm going to say around 25.
You
And wait,
purchased it.
Angie went and got these, right?
She's not allowed to guess. Yes.
So she's gonna know what is it.
Oh, yeah, that voice you hear in the background.
I would
is
argue
Eve,
it's around
doesn't have
25
her
as
own
well.
microphone,
Yeah.
but is now
For, like,
speaking.
Yeah.
Import tax for possibly moving it. from
Well,
Hawaii
there's no,
into the
there's no
States.
really, it's not really an import. We're just gonna incur like transportation costs,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's the same country.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You have
So
to
I would
fly
definitely argue like
or
25
ship it
at least.
across the
I
whole
guarantee you
Pacific.
it's above
I think
30.
we're in 30. I think we're
I
in
think
30
we're in
range.
32.
Are we done guessing? Do you
Yeah.
want to know?
I
Go
think
ahead.
so, yeah.
So I love a bargain, and it was $7.99.
Holy shit.
$7.91.
Total wine. Go
For
get it. It's on
21%.
sale.
Wow.
That's
Wow,
a
we're all
steal.
wrong.
Well, I mean, not mentioning, not really over the alcohol. It's just that's what it is.
Under $9.
Quality.
That's
Mhm.
under $9.
You put this in your coffee, you put it in a flask maybe, take it to work,
Jeez.
do a little bit of alcoholism.
I think even in
Do a
some
little
like
bit.
Irish
Sounds great.
cream,
And if someone
Oh,
tries
yeah.
to smell
Irish
it, they
cream
won't know.
coffee.
In fact, if I
Absolutely.
had
They
it,
won't know.
Yeah.
if I had it, I would have
Mhm.
emulsified it with Bailey's. That would have been great. But yeah, there we go. That is some macadamia.
Oh,
Never
yes,
thought
I
I would.
love adding alcohol to my alcohol.
Never thought I would have that as a flavor of liqueur, but there we are. What are we getting into today?
The next thing says socials. Apparently, we're plugging thewholemagazine.com with
That's
thewholemagazine.com
episode
You're
slash.
reading
That's
the
episode
wrong
40.
one.
Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to plug the
You're
socials.
we
Visit,
can guess
visit,
grab.
visit the website, visit the Facebooks, visit the YouTubes, visit all the places. Follow us on there so that way you get TikTok. Visit the TikTok because that's going to be fun.
Brandon rants about things on TikTok. So if you want to hear him rant
yeah,
about
if
things,
you want to
go
see
to
me
TikTok.
react to just awful, terrible things, we're playing
And
charades.
put a face to the voice.
And yeah, the shop is closed as of right now. But you know, we're fixing that. We're getting that figured out. But don't worry, soon stickers should be back up on the shop. The shop page should be back open. But you know, as tradition, we're gonna let our new guests kind of lead the discussion here, because we were having some interesting pre-podcast discussion, which I think needs to continue.
Do we really want to talk about abortion again?
It would be dumb if it was literally just the same people who have previously discussed it.
Yeah, it would be pretty.
So in a neat sense, right? I don't mean to like stray off topic, but definitely like what we were discussing earlier, like just as you were introducing, what was it? I completely mind blank.
Get closer to the mic.
Yeah, you're
I
quiet.
completely mind
There you
blank.
go.
Like I have no idea what it was.
There you are.
But yeah, let's just stay focused on the topic. So I was initially stating that, right, being here in a year since Washington, right, I'm typically open-minded. I was raised in a farm, you know, I've been in the South. I understand like the typical traditional values and typical opinions, but like I currently have a stated opinion and value on like pro-abortion. Like I understand that like, oh, we all have like our intended choices with our body, but I understand there's stipulations. You know what I mean? Like, oh, then you should have been more safe. You should have been more precautious, especially whenever you're in an engaged environment that could you know, what's the word?
Whenever you're doing an activity
Yeah.
that could possibly create a child.
Correct. You should be safe in
You know,
that
there's
environment.
memes all over the place. No one has sex and expects a plasma screen TV.
Right.
You
It'd
know?
be
Now,
nice, though.
obviously, like I've been with
You do.
individuals where they dress provocatively in
Mm.
bars, and like obviously, like it makes me uncomfortable. Like I don't think that's something you should do in a bar. However, I should not be able to tell you what to wear. I should not be able to tell you how to dress. But you should be able
And
to
I think-
understand.
So it sounds like right now your standpoint is going from the whole idea is my body, my choice.
Right.
But who's letting the baby have a choice?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even so much as that. It's like the baby isn't her body either.
yeah.
You know, I hear a lot, you know, debating from people on the internets and TikTok and all over the place, and it's always that thing. But I think the bigger thing ultimately is there's just a giant pervasion of just completely dismissing responsibility, right? And that's the thing is and there what's being argued isn't medical. Okay, they always coin that phrase, and when you're debating and discussing these things, you ask the question. It's like, okay, well, how about this? You want abortions because they always bring up rape and incest. They always do it without fail.
Yeah.
Which accounts for less than 1% statistically. You ask this question. Okay. And you'll hear what they either truly mean, or you'll either detect whether or not they truly gave it thought. Okay. The question is simple. Okay. Then if you know that, you know, rape and incest, you obviously don't like that. We should have abortions for those. Cool. Got it. Would you be okay with passing legislation that affects literally every other kind of abortion?
No. I feel like
So this is my point. Is once they say that, once they mention the rape and incest, and you ask that question and they say no, it's like, okay, so it ultimately isn't about the rape and incest. It's about a person's ability to, what statistically is the case, to arbitrarily go into a clinic and have an abortion.
I feel like the mother should be competent. You should not be, if I feel like you can't raise a child, it's either A, you should get that abortion, or B, you should put the child in foster care.
who is the dictating factor?
Let me chime in real quick on this, because I feel like
you can bring the mic over to you.
I feel like as the only female with a mic right now, I should kind of pipe in, because I see it's a lot of testosterone talking. Not to say it like in a negative way,
It's
but
okay.
you know.
It's okay.
It's too late. I'm already offended.
Too bad. Suck it up. Oh, thank you. Okay. Oh.
It's more comfortable.
Okay. Personally, on a personal standpoint, like we were talking outside, I do not agree with abortion. I think it's detestable. I think that it's a selfish choice for a woman to walk into an abortion clinic and after you have already made the selfish choice to go through and do whatever. And we're talking about the generalization of the mass. There's obviously outliers of rape and abortion and this and the other. We're talking about the mass generalization of abortion as somebody who went to a middle school where middle schoolers were getting pregnant and having abortions. You know,
Right.
this is the topic. We're not talking about, you know, extreme cases, which are always used as if they were the main core of the subject, right?
Yeah.
I personally, you know, I find them, I don't think that's a right choice. I think in a utopia, if you made that decision and you are no longer able to care for that child, there are thousands and thousands of couples who are unable to have children, and you could bring that child to term and bless that family in that way. But I also, you know, I'm not the person that's going to make that decision for them. So I'm like, you know, I'm not going to stand here and be like, you can't do that. I think it's, in my opinion, you shouldn't do that, but I'm not going to tell you you can't do that, because that's one of the beautiful things of America. You know, you have the choice to do what you want. But on the side note of this, I find it interesting when we're talking about it, you're like, you know, the woman should have been smart. She should have been on the pill. She should have used a condom. There are male forms of contraception. The man can come into these situations with a condom. So why is it when we have these conversations, it's always, you know, she should have been smart. She should have closed her legs. She should have done this.
You're absolutely right. And let me go and clarify. When I say responsibility, you know, I think the people responsible for doing the tango is what I'm talking about.
It takes two to tango. Takes two to tango.
Responsibility extends to the men as well.
Takes two to fuck like it takes two to
I also
fight.
don't think that men should be able to opt out of parenthood either.
Correct. Yeah, that's my secondary point to this, because then you have the position of, okay, so she's no longer able to have this pregnancy terminated, to have this child, you know, aspirated out of her womb, but then she's stuck footing the bill for this child. She's stuck going through this possibly, you know, horrible situation, and dad gets to walk around scot-free and impregnate other women.
I think there is already a legal avenue for you to force someone to pay.
You can
for
take
child
them to court
support
and sue them for child support.
How many women are on child support, still at the child support office fighting to get those payments? Because the list is atrocious. And from personal experience, there are many others who go and are, I don't have a job, so I'm not going to pay.
That's truly indicative of another problem entirely. It is the incentivization to be a single mother. That is a very big pervasion in the government. It is like, hey, you don't have to have your baby daddy in your life. We can assist you. You know, you don't make that income threshold, that's fine. We'll send you money. So there's too many incentives for mothers out there to become single parents. And so, you know, it's interesting how much this abortion problem branches out to many different things. It's like, what I hear as an argument for abortion is that, oh, well, the foster care system is so bad. It's like, I find that really interesting. So your solution to this terrible problem is to not fix the already established institutions, and instead just allow the arbitrarily, on a whim, killing of babies. Did you know in 2019, America killed 800,000 babies?
No.
800,000 babies.
It's definitely
You have the endemic over in China, where it's millions of babies. They have other social problems like overpopulation, and which was rescinded recently, but there was a 2-child law. So if you had other babies, sorry, you had to kill your kid. Right? And we have the aspect of responsibility, right? Responsibility, two to tango, right? What does that mean? Oh, well, I think that a man should also have a right to say, no, I want that kid, right? And, oh, yeah, well, you know, pregnancy, okay, cool. Then guess what that mother can do? If she doesn't want to be a mother, she can sign away her rights. She doesn't have to be a mother. Now that can be a single father.
That's correct.
Right? Because what is the usual source, really, of single fatherhood? Death of the mother.
Yeah.
That's really what the main source of a single father is. And so here we have this thing. It's like, okay, well, she never wanted to be a mom. It's like, okay, when the baby's born, sign away her rights. Let him be a single dad because he wants to love that child. And you, and the world that the left wants to paint is that man has zero say whatsoever. And there has been videos of men screaming and crying outside of abortion clinics saying, I want that baby.
There's a lot of cases where like women will claim incompetency. Like it's like,
Oh, for sure.
So the man has no incompetence.
Because it's just as simple as
Yeah.
saying that to a doctor and then being like, okay, makes sense. Let me go get the vacuum.
yeah, it's like, okay,
I think the real issue with the whole abortion topic isn't the legality of it, it's the abuse
Yeah.
by women of that service. It's the abuse of women of that service.
Yeah.
Because,
For sure.
you know, this is a hot topic, but, you know, Planned Parenthood is always painted as like the devil of, you know, female health care. I personally used to go to a Planned Parenthood to get my birth control because, you know, I was young and I didn't want to go through the doctor and have to deal with like my mom taking me to the OBG and going through
I have a question.
that.
and that's
I have a
what it's there
question.
for.
What cost did that incur to you?
I think it was like $20 for a 3-month shot.
$20
Mhm.
for
Look
a
at that.
3-month shot.
Look at that. Yeah.
This is going to my next point. You can already probably see. Condoms. Pretty damn cheap.
They're free. You can walk into
You
the
can walk
clinic.
into clinics.
You can
and
walk
get them
into
for
Planned
free.
Parenthood, and when I got my shot,
I
they
take the
would
whole
give
bowl.
you like a bag. No, they didn't even give you a bowl. There is a bowl, but they would give you like a little bag, and in
Yeah.
the bag it had condoms. It had like a pamphlet of like safe sex, and it warned, you know, the issues with unsafe sex is not just pregnancy, it's STDs,
Yep.
blah blah blah. You know, but you know, I personally don't see Planned Parenthood as the devil because I think it allows a lot of these girls that would be ashamed to go into a doctor's office to receive this care from a doctor with their parents to go get this care.
Which is
But-
so crazy to me because birth control is so pervasive.
Mm-hmm.
Birth control is so pervasive as
Mhm.
just a norm.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you are a young girl and you're like I want to look, let's even get a statistic on school age people on birth control. I'm talking like high school and lower. I want to
When
get a
I was
statistic
in middle
on that.
school, like I said, I remember being in 8th grade.
What was that
And
statistic?
there was 7th and 8th
Statistic
graders
of
that were pregnant.
school grade. So hang on, let's do from ages from middle school to high school.
Mhm.
How many of them are on birth control?
I would imagine maybe like
I'm saying at least
43%.
At least it's almost damn close to half. I'm
Half.
imagining.
I would say 43%. I'm comfortable with 43.
I agree with that statistic. I would say more.
43%. Yeah, because like especially in middle
Holy
school.
shit! What?
64.9.
There's
Yeah, I would say at
way.
least over 50.
9%.
Mhm.
Oh, it's even more. Now,
Now.
15 and 19 is 73.7.
73%.
Okay, I'm
Currently.
sorry, but that's
I will say part of this, I remember going to the OBG when I was 15, 16, 17,
Mhm.
and I wasn't sexually active. And, you know, I'm going to OBG just for like, you know, general checkup, whatever we're talking. And the doctor would come in and ask me if I was sexually active.
Say it
They
in the
would
mic.
not believe me when I said
Once-
I
once she's
wasn't
done.
sexually active.
Yeah.
And then they would pull my mom out of the room and try to ask me if I was sexually active again to see if I would
Right.
say yes. And then they were like, well, would you like birth control? And I was like, no, I am not active.
Yeah.
And I think it's not so much.
It is
Yes,
a push for money.
I don't know so much. I mean, yes, but also I think they just expect you to be lying. They expect
Truly.
they
Which is
expect you
sad.
to
And
be
that's-
lying.
This draws back to another point of a previous podcast is the hypersexualization of our society.
Absolutely.
If a doctor
Fucking
there was a
It's
time
incredible.
There was a time, believe it or not, where if a doctor asked you whether or not you were sexually active as a teenager, and you say no, they'd be like, okay, because you would be the outlier if you
Mhm.
were sexually active at those younger years. Cornette actually pulled up some statistics, but we also had that one from Eve, the 60, not 62%.
She said it increased to 70.
It increased to. You don't have a mic.
In 2015 to 2017, 64.9% or 47 million women were on birth control between the ages of 15 to 19.
That is
And if
like legitimately mind-boggling.
Holy shit.
Like
if
in
you
my
want a
opinion-
percentage breakdown per grade,
Yeah, let's get a percentage breakdown per grade.
so
please.
it only has a high school percentage. It doesn't have a middle school percentage. But in grade 9, there's 10.9% on birth control. Grade 10, 18.2. Grade 11, 25.8. And grade 12, 27.7.
Now,
I would honestly say that those statistics are lowballed because
Yeah,
I remember
lowballed.
being in high school and at least over half of my grade and I'm from like, I want to say 10th grade up, everybody's on birth control because we're all in the bathroom talking about which one we're on, what the
Weird.
side effects
Yeah,
are,
that's so
and what
crazy.
it's doing to our bodies. And sometimes they would even give it to us, even though we would say we're not sexually active because it would help regulate our periods.
Which is baffling to me. You are in ultimately a developmental period of your life, and their solution would be to have you take artificial hormones to regulate your period when your biology should do that for you.
And
I'm not a woman. I never had a period in my life, but your body does that naturally, right? Oh.
Yes, and also a lot of the irregularities in female hormones and female periods are more due to the food you consume than due to anything else.
Okay. I think
Which, on that point of food you consume, goes into a very huge problem with just American like obesity and
Right.
the food issue
Right.
that we have.
and there's
Food and
And
you know,
it makes it horrible for a lot of people to even be healthy.
I think one of the biggest things that is ultimately why we're at this point now of abortion being as much of a hot topic as it is obviously because of Roe versus Wade.
Mhm.
We had a bunch of people who literally do not understand Roe v. Wade at all,
right.
Mm-mm.
who got angry that it was basically rescinded or redacted, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
and they flipped out,
Overturned.
overturned.
So as I understand,
they didn't understand what it was.
It
They
was just
literally
a lot
thought
of misinformation.
they
too.
literally thought that Roe versus Wade gave people the right
no,
to abortion. It literally just stopped states from passing legislation. on it.
correct. So
Okay.
I was naturally upset whenever it was overturned, but then I had to do research because I didn't want to seem like one of those ignorant individuals who didn't understand what the concept of Roe v. Wade was. It's not necessarily a law.
We would
it
have
was a
bullied you
court
at work.
case. Huh?
We would have bullied you at work if you were wrong.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So once I understood that it was a court case and it was only regulating state laws and how they regulated abortion, that's when I understood that state laws and federal laws are completely different.
Yeah.
Well, realistically, the only thing that the Supreme Court decided is that it is not protected in the Constitution.
Correct.
Mhm.
They didn't
Yeah.
say that you can't put it into the Constitution, you can't sign it into law. So the federal government could have put a abortion protection into law, and they
They
did
could have for the past
for a long
5 decades.
time.
Correct. Yeah.
And they didn't.
So
because
natu-
they don't care.
Yeah, right. And naturally, I was upset. And even when I found out, right, and I was like, okay, well, I understand why it was overturned. I understand why people are upset. But why are people upset in the sense where they want to blame, oh, this state is fucking, misogynist or whatever the hell?
It's incredible because
that
what
should
not be
it
your
ultimately
mindset.
did was it allowed what should have been the case from the beginning was states could pass legislation.
Correct.
So we have Florida heartbeat bill. We have Texas also adopted the heartbeat bill, where the detection of a heartbeat cuts off your time, which I believe is around the 6-week mark. Wow, what a happy medium ground.
Mhm.
Didn't just completely outright ban it. There are states that obviously have. There are states who are like, no, you can still have abortions up to the 3rd trimester. Yeah.
Yep.
When it's fully looking like a baby and you can hold the damn thing and it'd be okay to live.
California.
Yeah, no, you can kill it. Yeah, just a
California.
clump of cells. It's fine. Yeah, the whole idea of the arguments of it, oh, it's just a clump of cells. It's not a human. What do I hear? It's the woman's body, literally from when it creates a zygote, the first actual meshing and fabrication of DNA is literally different DNA from the mother, genetically distinct. But oh no, that's the same body. So so women at any one point in time might have 20 toes or 20 fingers, right? Or 2 noses, 4 eyes. And that's just the mentality, the crazy ideology that you would have to adopt if you're going to sit there and say that, oh no, it's part of the same body. It's just sometimes after about 9 months, they disappear. They just leave. Yeah, okay, crazy.
I think more interesting than the what term it is acceptable to have or not have an abortion. It is the how many abortions is one individual allowed to have.
Ooh,
That's
do you want to
a-
hear my hot take?
That's a sensitive topic.
You want to
for
hear
sure.
my take?
Let's hear
Let's
it.
see. If I'm doing like the whole you have a grace period,
0.
you have 2,
Yeah,
and then they remove
you're
your
about-
uterus
You're about to say zero.
after the 3rd.
Oh, that's a
That's a little dystopian.
That's
How about
a
you just,
That's intense.
very
So,
dystopian.
so is the whole idea where you can just kill babies willy nilly.
just make
That's
it illegal to
dystopian.
kill babies and also make it illegal to force to sterilize
Ideally,
people?
here, if I want this is why I had to answer because the lazy answer would be 0.
do you want
Right.
to go back to the 1500s?
But no,
whenever
I
they
want-
would
I
use
want
you
to
don't,
have
you don't
that-
even have to go back to
That's
the
not even a lazy
1500s.
answer.
You
That's
can
I want to
check
have,
Google.
but here's another thing. Here's another thing too. The fathers who jump around from woman to woman and having multiple babies, guess what? After your second, you get a fucking vasectomy. And I'm talking like
Also dystopian.
who
as
are
fuck.
not
Very
who are
very
not
dystopian.
Why? Because let's reestablish responsibility and what that means. Because there's no consequences for somebody to go around to 8 different baby mamas.
What's next? Breeding
bang up.
licenses?
Like, look at that. You get Nick. You look at what you have. You have Nick
Did-
Cannon.
Yeah.
I have
did
no
you
idea who
guys
that is.
know?
Is that
He's
not a tragic
yeah,
situation?
Yeah, I
he's
know
a
who
pretty
Nick Cannon is,
big
yeah.
guy. Let me put it in perspective. Nick Cannon has
you.
several kids, but let me put this into perspective for you.
Okay.
You have on many occasions pointed out in many of the podcasts that we've had, this is a lead to so and so. This step is going to lead to so and so.
Yeah.
What you're stating is going to lead to so many other things. Like he said, birth
Absolutely.
licenses,
That's
things
accurate.
like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
If I was told how many kids I could have, I'd blow this fucking country
Hi.
up.
No, for
Hi.
sure. Am I saying that? I'm saying for people who are abusing the abortion.
Yeah, but how can you
system,
separate that?
It's easy.
So
Oh,
correct,
I
yeah.
just had abortion 5 months ago. Got to go get another one.
Side note, did you guys know the US already did this in Puerto Rico in the 50s?
Mhm.
Eve, if you want to pull up your phone. Puerto Rico, I say this because I myself am Puerto Rican, has long been the guinea pig for American medical procedures such as forced birth control. I believe it was in the 50s. In the 70s, they tested hormone in chicken, which led to 5, 6, 7-year-olds developing breasts and big butts, which is why the
Jesus.
stereotypical Puerto Rican woman has big breasts and big butts because of the hormones they were putting in the chicken. But yeah, so I believe it was in the 50s. Eve can fact check me. The US government went through Puerto Rico and, stereotypically, I hate to say it, but it was true. The Puerto Rican women were walking around with 10, 9, 11, 12 children, right? And the US government was like, there is no way you can sustain this family. You're living in poverty. You're creating a worse situation for yourself. Yep, look, 1950s. Yep. You're living in poverty. You're creating a worse situation for yourself, and we're not going to allow you to do it. So they just went around and forced women to go on the pill, and some they would take them into the doctor for a procedure, put them under, and just take their uteruses out.
It's
Dystopian
crazy.
as fuck.
Yeah,
it goes-
that's
but
dystopian.
it happened. It's
But
in
it happened.
Eve just fact checked it. It was in the 1950s. You can pick up
Mhm.
your phone, your handy dandy Google, look it
Yeah.
up. It did happen.
I
It
can't,
is
my
a
phone's
fact.
dead.
You
Here's another thing. Obviously, what I said was very much like provocative.
It's fucked. Yeah.
but it was real. It
but,
happened.
But I
already.
really do think that
It was
if we
just
want to
legitimately
have
a
these,
wrong opinion.
if we do want to have these things, no, fuck it. The wrong opinion is just being able to kill your babies whenever you fucking want.
Sure, but forced
That's the wrong
vasectomies
thing.
or forced hysterectomies is also wrong.
Yeah.
We,
I agree.
Well, yeah, obviously, but if we have another evil, let's have another evil to counteract that. If a woman is so you think that it's
two
completely
evils-
fine that we can just, if we have abortion, which is very likely in this country in a lot of states, that they can just go month after month after month killing their babies with no possible
that's
recourse.
not okay. But it's also not okay to forcibly sterilize.
So then,
people.
what would be a solution? What sort of repercussions should a woman face and a
Jail.
man?
jail time for
for
the
also
doctors
doing
who perform
No. Why would you do that?
Right.
because it's illegal?
Personal
or you could make
responsibility.
it illegal.
No, it's not illegal. I'm
So
talking about in
I
states
try
where
to
it's
view
completely
it from
legal.
a philosophical.
What
Um,
ramifications?
So you're already
should the
talking
woman
about
face?
a legislative change, right?
You can track
could
these
already
through social
have jail
security
time.
numbers.
Yep.
So you attach a social security number to the medical care, and you're only allowed to have X amount, whatever
Yeah.
X amount is agreed upon.
0.
Yeah. Now here's this. They don't get the abortion. They have to have that one, right?
Mhm.
They can still keep their uterus, sure, but you have a cutoff. You can't just keep on going back into the abortion clinic to have abortions.
Well, you
Eventually,
shouldn't be able to have any.
the doctors should just be able to go, no.
No, it should just be
Well,
illegal
right.
to perform
So
an
if
abortion.
there-
I
There's,
agree
like,
with
a
you, but
legal
here we are
amount.
living in the world where abortions are still a thing.
Okay. Well, also at the
This
same
is the
time,
whole-
forcibly sterilizing people is wrong too.
I know. Here we are now discussing new
So-
ways of
I would like to
having cutoffs for this shit.
Go
I
ahead,
would like to
Morgan.
bring a hot take in a sense. So when we talk about race, right,
Timestamp
when we
that.
talk about racism in a sense, right? So we can understand that
I said his name.
racism can't
Who?
necessarily be abolished, right?
Oscars.
We always try to sit here
Said his
and
last
find
name.
solutions for racism. Racism is an ever longer problem. It has been existing for centuries, millennia, right? We can understand that Yes, individuals can view each other from a different perspective, view each other from different colors, ethnicities, and no matter what we do, right? Establishing rights, establishing voting rights, desegregating, there will be individuals that will still stray from the morally, principally, accepted way of viewing other people. It's the same thing with abortions, right? We can sit here all we want and want to make ramifications, solutions. There will always be individuals that will approve of abortions and not approve of abortions. We can't sit here and make solutions because there is no solution. As unfortunate as it sounds, there's some cases where you can't find an answer for things. You can't find solutions for things. It's unfortunate. I understand that not everyone's pro-abortion and not everyone, wants to take the life of a child who could possibly have a really bright future. And whether it be through foster care or just passing on to another parent, it's just how it is.
There's just too much gray area in between a lot of this, but I feel like when we're generally, like I said before, when we're generally talking about this, we're not talking about the outliers. We're not talking about the mothers who are financially unable to take these children to term. Most of the time when we're talking about this, we are talking about the women who go back and have abortion over abortion. We're talking about the women who are careless and don't understand the ramifications of having unprotected sexual encounters because they know they have the fail-safe to go in and have this pregnancy terminated.
And with all due respect, that has nothing to do with how the government runs things or how the doctors perform abortions or anything. That has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with the individual, or not necessarily the individual, but how the parents raised them.
Correct.
Right? The way I was raised, it's you have protected sex. And if you don't have protected sex, you know what you're signing up for.
But again, there's a lot of gray area. And if we want to bring that into it, then, we can apply that logic to a completely different topic and say, oh, this is, okay, we'll bring it back to the racism, what you were talking about, right? This is, they feel this way because of the way they were raised. Okay, people aren't naturally born racist. That's
Correct.
Something that's
Yeah.
injected into
It's all
them,
traditional.
right? And the government can't control this, the government can't control that, but you can control how people are allowed to be treated in a public space.
Correct.
And
So you can
There's
allow.
been study after study of people's opinions later in life come down to how they were raised and brought up as they were younger.
But that kind of like delves into a completely whole different topic, basis of psychology, right? Nurture versus nature. So we obviously understand how nature is, and we obviously understand how nurture is. Southerners, and with all due respect, Southerners, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, West Virginia,
Well, I
they
think
focus on nurture.
we need to make a massive distinction between
That's a
what
mass generalization.
leftists.
It is a mass generalization.
we have
but
to
I would
make
argue
a
it's
we have to
very
make a
accurate.
massive distinction between leftist racism and what they say is racist
Yeah,
and actual racism.
that's true. No,
Right?
that's very
Facts.
true.
Because
Very true.
acknowledging statistics, saying that there might be a problem, we should probably address those things in communities, is racist.
Right.
Literally giving a shit and saying, well, there's problems in these communities that need to be fixed is racist.
I would argue that coddling and patronizing is also racist.
Facts.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you. Hot
The-
take.
I would
Yes.
argue that like the way Disney runs things is
Oh, for
arguably
sure.
racist.
The
Absolutely.
white savior
Arguably.
complex,
Yeah.
the what Joe Biden has literally said, they don't know how to access the internet or they don't have access, so they can't get voter IDs,
Yeah, yeah.
which was a Democratic
It's arguably racist.
argument.
Yeah.
No, the Democrats are unironically racist. They're
Yeah.
like, these people are unintelligent. They don't know how to work things.
Right.
They can't be able to. You can't expect them to be able to function. So we have to come in there and we have to help.
Is patronizing
the-
a good word for that?
Oh, for sure.
I think that's
Yeah.
for sure
It
patronizing.
is the Democratic mainstay is saying that minorities are incompetent, and so that's why the government needs to help them.
And it's unfortunate. Unfortunately,
see a lot
Like,
of-
I feel like it's.
I see
very
quite a
shitty.
few people on the social media who are bigger sort of heads in that community who say, "Nah, fuck that."
Yeah, a lot of African
I see through
creators.
your bullshit. I'm not incompetent. I can do things myself. I don't need your damn help.
There's a lot
The
of African
problem
American
is-
creators on
And,
TikTok.
and what are they
that are
called?
Like that.
What are they called?
Oh,
Uncle
they're-
Toms
yeah.
and all this other
Mhm.
bullshit.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Why? Because they have to keep dissent down. They have to make sure that everyone falls in line in order, so that way they can get their ultimate goal, which is voters. That's literally all it's for. That's literally all it's for. That is the Democratic mainstay. They have no intention of making things better for the United States, which is evident from every decision they've ever fucking made. And Yeah, and their rap record, their record on race issues.
I don't like the singling out. So in a sense, yeah, as you stated, like there's African American creators, whether it be on YouTube, Twitch, or TikTok, or any social media platform, whenever they speak their values, they'll be singled out as an Uncle Tom in a sense. And that goes the same thing for white creators as well, or any other former creator. They're immediately singled out. If you're like anti-abortion, right, you're automatically singled out as a conservative. Why can't you just have your own opinion and your own philosophies and your own moral values?
Which is
what generally
is very,
most people are.
very, it's very true that's generally what happens is you're generalized into a group of people.
And I don't like that, right? So I understand that I have a lot of leftist views and I understand I have a lot of conservative views, but I don't like how Abraham Lincoln stated, a house divided, will fall. It's the same concept. There should be no sides. We're all a part of the human race. We're all Americans. We should all view things from the American perspective, right? Freedom of speech, freedom to bear arms.
That's madness. How dare you suggest
Yeah.
that?
I mean, yeah, I understand your sentiment, but a sad reality of the world and our government is that it's never going to be a truly nonpartisan sort of way of living.
It sucks because I don't want to sit here and sound
and that's
like
true across most governments across the world.
I don't want to sit here and seem like I'm insinuating that I'm a hippie and that we should all strive for peace. But it's the truth. If we all just viewed society, right, as we all have differences, we all have opinions, we all want to live the lives we want to live. But at the end of the day, if you were to slit your wrists right now, we would all bleed red. That is the concept, right? We're all human. So because we're human,
there's also another point is that there's other people
I actually
who
bleed
also,
red, white, and blue.
You're such a patriot or nationalist.
I actually want to pick your brain, actually, and your brain as well, about because you mentioned this earlier, which is great. The Hamas and Gaza, Gaza, Israel, Palestine. There's legit terrorists just flying terrorist flags in the United States.
It's in my
freely
opinion,
and openly,
right? Being as open-minded as I am, I understand that people have their own religions. I understand people have their own broad points. However, we are America, right? We are the United States of America. We have military, right? And we could be possibly engaged in a conflict with, Palestine or Hamas. We have active individuals on social media that are supporting Palestine. And my concern is, right,
crazy
is the level of ignorance, right? You have to understand history. You have to understand historical prospects, right? These nations have been at war for millennia, right? You can't sit here and say, oh, the country of Palestine has been oppressed. The country of Palestine has been,
Palestine is technically not even a country.
Yeah, right.
True, which
It's
is
not,
hilarious.
but-
If we go back to it, guess who started every single war between Israel?
Correct. But if you want me to be
The British.
what's it called? The devil's advocate, right? The devil's advocate in a sense. Neither is Ukraine. Ukraine isn't really recognized as a country. It's only been recognized
Ukraine
by
has
NATO.
been recognized by every single country
Only NATO.
in
NATO
the United
countries.
Nations.
It hasn't been recognized by Russia.
After it was recognized by Russia when the
Was it?
Republic of Ukraine decided to separate
Vladimir
from the
Putin
Soviet
would think
Union
otherwise.
during the collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s.
That's true. Vladimir Putin just says, no, it's still Russia.
Vladimir Putin would think otherwise.
Vladimir Putin might be wrong, but at the time, who was it? Boris Yeltsin, whoever was in charge of the USSR when it collapsed.
What's his name? Bortsakov, the one who did the Berlin Wall stuff or whatever.
Gorbachev.
Gorbachev.
I think it's interesting because we can sit here, right? And
Ukraine
I think
has been recognized by the international community for a long time.
I would argue just NATO countries. I wouldn't say international
Literally,
countries.
the United Nations plus the former Soviet Union recognized
But if
Ukraine as an
but you can
independent
argue
republic.
that not a lot of countries are a
Soviet
part of the
Union.
United Nations. Not every single country in this world is a part of the United
Like what?
Nations. Like obviously Russia, right?
Russia is
even
part
a
of the United Nations. I think Russia
is
even
a
has
part-
veto
Yeah,
power.
a lot of places like Palestine is in the fucking UN.
Why would they be in the UN if they're going to commit
Iran
war
was in the
crimes?
Iran was in the Iran. Angie wants to say something. Iran was in the UN, and they also said that United States is going to get it if we don't end the conflict in Hamas.
If I'm not
and
mistaken,
Gaza, which is
Barack Obama
hilarious.
sent $6 million so that way Iran could get rid of nuclear weapons, and they still possess nuclear weapons.
Oh yeah, it's been a shit show.
Yeah.
Hypothetically,
What did you
Iran
wanna-
doesn't possess nuclear
What did you want to
weapons.
say?
I just wanted to chime in. I personally do not consider myself to be as fully educated on the topic to sit here and say this, that, and the third. But here's the thing. Every single one of you guys in here has intellect. Every single one of you guys in here has enough intellect to not take what you hear on social media at face value and dig and find the facts. The majority of the United States population does not. And their news source is TikTok.
Yeah.
Their news source is some idiot with a microphone, just to say it like that, with a microphone and a camera that said this, that, and the third, and is saying, you know, whatever. And they're not going to fact check. They're not going to go back. They're not going to.
You can check on the whole mag TikTok, where I look at this propaganda shit that's
sadly,
going on.
the algorithm is not going to lead them to them.
TikTok advertising is a zero possibility.
It's so incredible. This is where you get these quote unquote, you know, influencers that are, you know, saying free Palestine, support Palestine, this, that, and the third, because I promise you, these people are not going in and they're not getting the facts. So that's why we're flabbergasted, right? We're all sitting here flabbergasted as to why they're supporting, why they're doing, why they're making these choices.
The history.
If you look at it too,
but they don't. It was the same thing with Russia and Ukraine. They don't. The majority of the United States population is in ignorance, and they live that way because it is simpler to live in ignorance and follow.
Ukraine separated from Russia to become an independent nation away from its socialism, right? Russia did not recognize it as an independent country.
How many Americans do you think know that?
China
not
also
a lot.
doesn't
I would imagine not.
Taiwan.
And how many Americans are taking
Taiwan
this lack of information, misinformation, half-ass information, and rallying with it?
I would argue that not a lot of people are pro-Russia. I would argue a lot of people are pro-Ukraine, but I'm saying that from that general perspective, that could explain why people are ignorant about the Palestine conflict.
Hayes literally was a couple sentences away from me reporting him to CID for a lot of
the issue is he really loves Russian surplus.
Well, don't we all?
I think he's also just contrarian. So whatever whatever is mainstream is bad. Even if mainstream happens to align with my own personal values, it's now bad. So he's just contrarian. But he is also not here to defend himself.
We'll also say
maybe we shouldn't bully him
one particular bit of propaganda that I was seeing a lot is the timeline was that obviously Gaza has been bombarding Israel with plenty of rockets since it began. One of their missiles failed, hit a hospital parking lot. And what does Hamas do in true terrorist fashion? They chop up a whole story saying that a Israeli airstrike hit a hospital and killed 500.
I heard about that.
Death toll was about 10. And it was a Hamas rocket. And you just see all over. What did the news media do? Ran with the terrorist story. They ran with the story that was told to them by legitimate terrorists who would go and just as soon kill them.
Like they didn't fact check. They went with the more sensational story.
How about this? What a crazy policy. Ignore the fucking enemy. Ignore the terrorists. Ignore them.
It's insane because
they're literally people who will have declared you as an enemy. If you're an American, you are an enemy to these people, and you will be killed on sight.
It goes back to what Angie was stating, right? Social media is a very powerful weapon. Whether we like to accept it or not, internet, social media, in a sense, is a very powerful weapon. We all understand that ISIS used social media for recruiting, right? We all understand that ISIS, recruited Americans into their ranks via social media. Social media is a powerful influence, and not just for giving information to the enemy, but the enemy providing information to us and how we spin it, right? It's either do we spin it as false or do we spin it as truth? And, as it is, I wanted to be a journalist at one point. We all understand.
I want to point out to you that there was literal video of the missile failing and crashing back into Gaza.
And that's the crazy part.
People are like, no, that was debunked. By who?
That's
Hamas.
That's the crazy part, right? Is journalism nowadays is very shitty, right? Mm-hmm. We all understand mud racking. We all understand yellow journalism. We all understand that, right? But journalism nowadays doesn't really care. We all understand that journalism is all about making the most money, running with the story that makes the most sense, makes the most money. It doesn't matter if it's true. It doesn't matter if it's false.
Making up a bullshit headline that doesn't even go with the story.
Running with a narrative that'll attract the most attention. It sucks. I know it's super shitty, but there's nothing really we can do about it other than changing the system. And we don't want to put constrictions on journalism because I remember, oh so long ago, maybe hundreds of years ago, whenever journalism was just starting out, especially in the 1700s, when you put restrictions on journalism, that's affecting freedom of speech. We don't want to affect freedom of speech, but we also don't want to spread misinformation, especially if it contributes to the enemy. But that's just how it is. And I don't want to seem like an outlier. I don't want to seem like that guy who's saying, oh, there's no answers to anything. I'm sorry. I can't sit here and be like, oh, there's an answer to everything. There's no answers to everything. We can't sit here and say, oh, I'm going to come up with a cure for cancer, a cure for racism. I'm going to solve everything.
Yeah.
Not everything is solved. It's a matter of how a human perspective views moral philosophies.
But I think that's the whole point of the whole magazine. The whole point of the whole magazine, what we're doing right now, is that we're having these open conversations. Everybody's giving their viewpoint. So it generates conversation outside of this room, and it generates questions. It generates people speaking about this. And, you know, because you're right, we're not solving anything here. We're just bullshitting. We're talking, whatever. But
that's honestly the starting point.
Yeah.
Is we have people who really just parrot shit they hear on TikTok, have no idea. They're just like, okay, yeah, I'll just accept that as reality. Whereas most of us in the room will, let me go and do the Googles.
Yeah.
Let me refer to sources. Let me just cross-reference.
I can't tell you how many people I come across who read the headline to like a sensational hit piece, which is misleading as all hell, and then that is now their opinion, and they think it's a source.
Yeah,
they will source you that article, even though the actual text of the article contradicts the headline.
It's mostly, I'm not trying to like stress this in any way, but as obviously a Gen Zer, you know, I'm like 22 years old. People in my age group, obviously they use Snapchat. Snapchat has a discover page. It has a news outlet, right? And we all
Crazy.
Yeah, and it all has
Crazy.
news, right? And with all due respect, I'm not trying to say this as a biased person in any form, but I can argue with a definitive fact that most of the news outlets are liberal. Like I'm not trying to.
No, that's just a fact.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sound.
But how could you come out of here with that crazy conspiracy theory?
I don't mean to sound
No,
like that.
it's legit true.
But I'm not trying to sound unbiased. I obviously have leftist views. I understand that, and I appreciate
What's another view? Because I think we're hammering the same nail. What is another sort of? One more that you want to talk about. And we'll also throw over to Angie.
I'm a big supporter for, as a human being, you can be whoever you want and identify as whoever you want. I do believe in transgenderism. I do believe that you can identify as I was waiting for that, honestly.
Yeah.
So I do believe that anyone can identify as anything they want. However, I do believe in the philosophy that ideals, right? When we talk about human ideals, we all have morals.
Oh, here
right?
goes Eve talking for the first time.
We all have philosophies, right?
Eve
We
has
all
strong
have
views.
ideals. Don't push your ideals on me, right? That is my only consent, right? If you want to be transgender, if you want to view things from a certain perspective, if you want to identify for all I know, a toaster, right? Just don't tell me to identify you as a toaster. Don't force your ideals down my throat. I can respect your pronouns. I can respect who you want.
Never mind, she's not going to talk.
I consider transgenderism a mental illness, like it has been for the past hundreds of years, and I think that people who are doing that are LARPing.
LARPing.
There we go.
Like role
just
playing.
live action.
You talking about
Just
role
live action role play for these people.
I don't think that's
here's my
true.
thing. I originally had your general consensus of like, it's cool, believe whatever you want to believe, don't push that shit on me. I extend that to, if I call you sir,
that is legitimately silly.
you have no right to be angry
No,
at me.
that's legitimately silly. So
That's
like,
silly. No, it's not silly, because you are telling me that I have to LARP with you.
No.
Yeah, it is. No, 100% is.
Ideals should not be shoved down one's throat.
It's not an ideal.
So-
it's biological fact.
So like you,
wait. So should you be able to control someone else's speech?
No, you should
So
not
if he wants to call someone a sir, you can't stop him.
Freedom of
Correct.
speech. Okay, so here I have this too. Thank you, Eve. With this transgender thing, we obviously see a whole lot of stuff involving kids.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand.
Is that bad?
To me, it's bad.
To me, it's bad. Okay, so here we
especially
have
through like
something
education
so
systems. It's definitely in education
absolutely-
systems.
It's so absolutely deranged and literally detrimental to a kid's understanding of how the world works.
I wouldn't say deranged, but definitely detrimental.
In my daddy's belly,
Is that a book that was published?
That is a book that is published that is meant to be shown to kids.
No. See, no, that's crossing the line.
That's
for
crossing
sure.
the line. But
Why
I'm
is it-
expected.
why is it crossing
I'm
the line, what, John?
expected.
I believe that one, right, a book is an educational tool, right?
And you can
When
see
you-
on that picture, it's obviously made for kids.
When you're providing literature, right, regardless if it's fiction, nonfiction, biography, etc., right, it is a tool for education, for knowledge, retaining knowledge. So right, so when you talk about sexualities, genders, or how you identify, that should be a discussion between the parent and the child, right? That should be a discussion. Now, granted, there will be stipulations where you're probably in a social environment
You need
and you
to ignore
experience
signing.
something like this that has nothing to contribute via the parent's teachings, right? However, it should not be up to a teacher. It should not be up to an author
sure.
to shove those ideals
I
down a
think-
child's throat. A
Here's
child,
my thing.
nonetheless.
Again, like I said, I'm fine with people LARPing. They can do that at 18.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that any parent who's pushing transgender ideology on any child under the age of 18 is child abuse, and there should be some intervention.
Child abuse?
Yes.
I wouldn't stress
Why
that
is
far.
that? Okay, so if I'm a parent and I am, yeah, it's interesting how that book is also made because less than 1% of the population is trans, and that needs to be a book for some reason.
No.
Here's another thing.
No.
Here's another thing. It goes even into the whole biological reality. And it's one of those things like, what is a woman? It's a Netflix documentary, and
I
it poses
genuinely,
a phenomenal
I genuinely
question.
hate that fucking question
Because
because
there's no-
Matt Walsh has fucking tackled that shit perfectly.
Because there
Like,
is
actually.
no, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Because this is the question that nobody seems to be able to answer because they can't. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it destroys the entire
You
fabric
take into
of what it
account
stands
like
for.
emotional response and not and
No. It has
and-
nothing to do with emotion.
Right. Because
What it really does is it exposes the logical fallacy of circular logic.
right, because when you sit here and you say, "What is woman?" I can sit here and say, "Oh, a woman is with
An adult human female.
correct with reproductive organs that represent the females." Right.
I go even more basic. You have certain sets of chromosomes.
Right. Correct.
It is a fundamental law of nature.
That's not
But
more
me,
basic.
right?
That's saying the same
Obviously.
thing.
No, because a woman at any point in time could not have ovaries.
Adult human
They
female
couldn't have a
and having,
uterus.
what is it?
Because of
XX chromosomes
hysterectomy,
is
right?
the same thing.
Yeah.
But
So
you're
saying
saying the same thing.
reproductive open is not the same thing as it at all.
You're saying
But more
adult,
specific,
I'm saying that it's saying adult human
really, because
female.
I've debated somebody who was mentioned when they were mentioning reproductive organs. They're like, "Oh, so a woman has a hysterectomy. That's not a woman anymore." It's like,
That's not
That's
no.
the
That's
answer to
not
that
remotely
question.
that
true.
doesn't make them not female.
Yeah,
To
they're
have a
still
hysterectomy.
very
female.
good. So that's why when you shove it down to the chromosomes, it's irrefutable.
So
it's not based on any other factor of their being except their fundamental DNA.
now, unfortunately, as it stands, right? Obviously, like I tend to lean more left, and I tend to be more open minded in a sense.
I'm not sure how true that is at this point.
It's still true. I can't sit here and tell you exactly what a woman is. It's stupid and it sucks. I know.
Mind-boggling.
I know, but it's
Why
because
is
I take.
that?
Why can't you tell us what a
It's
woman
unfortunate
is? What
because
is a
I
woman?
take into account emotional prospects. Right?
Why?
It's because it's important.
No, it's not.
Apparently,
it is absolutely not.
Individuals have this mindset where if they are not respected in the gender or sexuality that they're in, they immediately enter this turmoil.
Do you know
or-
what the appropriate therapy would have always and should have been and was for decades? You
not electric?
once they got rid of all that fucking medieval shit, it was therapy.
Take them to the asylum.
It was therapy. Is it any wonder why kids who are subjected to transgender ideology grow out of it?
First of all, I remember back in like
Here's another
fucking,
concerning
sixth
thing.
or seventh grade.
Here's another. You care about somebody. They might be transgender.
right.
You parroting along with it and agreeing with it is
Mhm.
continuing for them to be pushed down the likelihood of a 45% suicide rate.
Like,
And these are statistics that the transgender community has shouted from the rooftops themselves.
yeah, because
And the idea had
that's,
been
that's that argument, you know.
no.
it's-
Here's this other argument. Why don't those rates improve after transition surgery?
I would imagine it's because of self doubt. So I have spoken to individuals who have transitioned, and I'm talking like fully transitioned.
Mhm.
You know, they removed the breast, they've been on T for like approximately a year and a half. Like I get it, right?
Right.
There's some individuals who say they're happier. right? They feel comfortable in the body that they're in. They feel more comfortable with their identity. But I've had individuals where they question their sexuality. They're like, oh, I've done all this, but I'm slightly still attracted to men than I am women.
Do you think that it is correct for the doctors, because it is a giant cash cow for somebody to come in as a transgender because it's covered by most insurance, because it would be discriminatory otherwise because it's considered healthcare? Do you think that it's appropriate for doctors to leave out important information, like how they would have to be on medication for the rest of their lives, especially if they do bottom surgery? Procedures that would ultimately, honestly, if you're doing from, for example, even either direction, very high risk of dying just from infection.
Well, first of all,
they don't say that.
I would imagine that information should be brought up to
it's
their
not.
attention. That
It's not.
should be information that should
It's
be
not.
brought up immediately before starting, like
It's
not
not.
necessarily procedures, but like actual, like starting the actual medications.
It's just not. A person tested out how fast it was to become transgender and get literally, it was a phone call, or it was walking to a clinic, and the counseling, quote unquote, was 20 minutes long. There was no
Wow.
digging in.
Wow.
There was no digging into the probably more deeply seated problems in that person's psyche, in their psychology. It was just like, oh, so you feel like you're a woman? Okay, perfect. So here's your prescription for estrogen. You can actually go just down the street and they'll have it ready for you.
I don't want to sound like a bastard when I say this, but that kind of brings back to Charles Darwin. Natural selection.
Right.
Right.
But here we are. You literally just said, not even, whatever, how many minutes ago? We all bleed red. We all should care about our fellow human.
Correct.
Why am I going to sit here and say and feed into somebody's delusions when I know all these things that are going to possibly happen to them?
Let me elaborate, right? We all bleed red. We are all human, and we all can make our own choices, but that doesn't necessarily mean we give a shit about one another. Okay, that's just how it is. Humans are bastards,
but
right?
people
That's
who I
part of
care
the
about,
issue.
people who I care about,
and it sucks.
who no longer talk to me because I have my opinions that I do.
You've told me about this. Yeah, Oh shit.
Straight up, just stop talking to me.
Yeah, you've told me.
I care about the person a
you're,
lot. I'm not gonna sit here and change my beliefs
Yeah,
because you're not mentally sound.
And
Like,
that's-
you need to have help.
I've
And I don't think help
explicitly,
is chopping off body parts and going on lifelong medications and then proceeding to possibly have a risk of 45% chance of you dying by yourself or also dying from the infections from these
So
surgeries.
initially, I didn't understand your statistic, but it definitely makes more sense, right? So obviously, I have my individuals who are transgender. They fully transitioned. They've been on the meds, right? They understand my viewpoints. They understand my position, right? But we also understand that those medications, the procedures, hell, the transition itself can lead to emotional and mental,
Crazy.
constraints, right? It could be like, oh, is anyone going to view me this way? Is anyone going to actually appreciate me this way? Will my family still love me? Will my friends still love me?
Here's this.
I would think
I just saw a
that the-
clip on TikTok of a woman who was attending a appointment with her husband of decades because the husband magically thinks that he's a woman now.
Oh, I heard about that.
Goes and the woman starts crying because the doctor is doing what a doctor should and is answering all the questions because he has to. He's on fucking TV. Is answering the questions like, oh yeah, well, your libido and sex drive is probably going to be destroyed for about a year. There's no real getting around that. Eventually it might go away. Yes. And the woman is just sitting there crying. She cares about that man so much, but for some reason doesn't have the heart to be like, no.
But do you understand
No,
how,
you
like,
need other
also
help.
in that sense, right? The doctor was doing the right thing. He was providing
Yeah.
the exact information.
And guess
He was
what?
providing the exact precautions.
Guess what the people who care about these people weren't doing? Speaking up. Why?
Speaking up.
Because she was on TV, and if she said anything to the contrary, she would be shut down and canceled.
It doesn't even matter if you're on TV, right? I have supported individuals.
Absolutely.
I have supported individuals who want to transition, and it's not necessarily something that I agree with because it's just like, this is an individual's life. This is an individual's choice, right? If you want to go through this thing, that's up to you. But just know that there is prolonged issues with this. These are things that can happen.
Here's my solution for this. Really, is it's quite simple. It is, you don't just get to walk into a clinic, have a 20-minute appointment, and just immediately start getting estrogen and whatever the fuck you want. You go through counseling 4 years. You do all the previous treatment methods of therapy and discussion and figuring out the root problem of your issues, and you go from there.
I would
Go ahead.
argue a year. Actually,
Go ahead and hang on, honey. Do you want to go out there and turn off the playroom heat pump and then the bedroom heat pump, and then we can turn on some AC in here? It's getting a little
So
cokey.
I would
going along
actually-
with something you just said about the supporting people
Yeah.
and
What's
being
wrong,
able to be
Walker?
there with them. One of the things
Phone's
is
dead.
that you pointed out
Your
there was
phone's
that she
dead?
was on TV.
Time to leave.
It's very hard for some people to literally publicly speak their stuff in front of
Do you need a
millions,
charger?
thousands, however many people, because they feel
Type
they're
C?
pressured.
I need to
do
go
a lot of
home.
it.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
are there us that believe that we could easily say what we believe
Well, if
because
you-
of the simple fact that we know it's right or wrong to our own beliefs, obviously, or if you can't,
Hang on, folks.
like,
We're
it's
going to do a
just-
little siesta here for a second. Meet us back after this break. Hello, welcome back. We just had a short little intermission there. Walker has left us, but we still have the rest of the folks. No. To continue on the conversation, I know Marcus wanted to add some things.
Yes, going on to the same conversation that we were having about the trans personnel having friends or family and people who were speaking up for them. In the situation of what Brandon was talking about, that lady was in live television being recorded with other people looking, and she was in a stressful moment where she had to basically pick and choose what she could say because they were almost not in a way of controlling, but it's almost like a
There are severe
forced
social
kind of control.
ramifications.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate. Look, as sucky as it sounds, right? We can all sit here all we want and say that, oh yeah, social media or news televisions or anything is gonna force feed information down your throat. That's just how it is, right? You can't change how a person morally is. It sucks. Like me personally, I would value my opinion. I would value my morals and my values, and I would say what I have in my mind, regardless of whether or not I'm television or not. Not everyone is like that. And unfortunate as it sounds, you can't change how people want to view things or how they want to say things, especially in stressful situations. When you have, if I were to put you on the mic, Marcus, and make you say something that you really wanted to say.
I mean, also, let's just note that your opinions about transgenderism is a very safe opinion to have on television.
It is, but most people feel scared.
Whereas
And
people will literally try to find my house to harm me or my family.
and that's unfortunate because that shouldn't exist.
I have a question to ask you.
Can we
Sure.
make a correction on
So-
your speech?
Huh?
Sorry to interrupt you, Eve. I
No, you're
apologize.
okay.
Let's not say we can't change people's views because religion.
Religion doesn't change people's views.
What the fuck you mean?
I was baptized as a Catholic and I still don't believe in God.
The amount of people converted, you can change people's views.
I argue that we can't change people's views or their values. or
And
their
you
morals
have
or
100% right to do that. I understand that.
I think the own person has to change their own views and their own morals. And it comes with making mistakes.
But I argue, how is someone going to change their view if they're not presented with opposing ideology? So how is somebody going to change their mind? How is somebody going to explore new ideas if they're constantly being patted on the back and being told you're doing the right thing, this is the way to go, and they're not being exposed to the opposing side? And this is good because you have an opposing viewpoint to the majority of the people in
Right.
the room, and you're expressing your viewpoint. And at the end of the day, is our viewpoint going to change? Probably not. Is
No.
your viewpoint going to change?
No.
Probably not. But it's creating a conversation.
Correct.
And what Cornette was saying is, he used the example of religion, but how would someone even begin to consider a separate religion if they're not exposed to that religion?
It's as you stated, experiences, making mistakes, learning valuable lessons, right? When you when we talk about how humans developed through centuries, right? Especially as what was it called? Homo sapiens. When you had the hunters and the gatherers, right? Okay, not Homo sapiens, but you know,
are
right? But when you insinuate like Neanderthals, right? you had the hunters and the gatherers, right? And you ate a berry, and oh, this berry just so happened to be poisonous. You fucking died. Like that's just how it is. You learn
Jesus
from
told them what
experience,
to eat.
right? You learn from experience. And the crazy part is, even though I don't believe in God and I'm agnostic, right? I look at the Bible, right? And I've read excerpts from the Bible, and I can arguably state that the Bible, even though I don't believe in it, it is lessons. It is lessons and sentences. You can sit here and read the Bible, and you can learn more about yourself and how to better yourself just by reading it. Isn't that crazy? You don't have to believe in God. You don't have to believe in Christianity, but you can read this book and learn how to become a better self, learn how to value each other, and how to become a better human being. It's insane
A
to
book
even
of
fathom
morals.
that, because you have theology, right? And you study all these kinds of religions, but all these religions are the same, whether you like it or not. Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, they're all the same. It's how to better yourself as a human being and how to live your life freely and successfully. And when I say success, I don't mean necessarily monetary or being a fucking, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm talking about, fulfillment, the soul. That is key. It is
Before
so
I
key.
cede the mic to Eve, because Eve been trying to say something for a minute,
Yeah.
and I appreciate
I
her hot
noticed.
takes. I just wanted to add a little thing, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but your viewpoint is not coming off as accusatory, but your viewpoint is objectionally very PC. It's one that's kind of, pretty safe. It's not going to get you attacked. And it's a safe viewpoint to have as somebody who presents as the 1%, as somebody who presents as a white, straight, cis male using the left terminology, So, where the whole conversation, we were revolving around transgenderism and this, that, and the other. And I'm sure Eve is about to touch on this topic because I'm waiting for her to pop off. Is why is the conversation being led of what is a woman by white males? Why are men saying what is a woman? Why do you get to sit here and, share your viewpoint of, yes, a man can transition and be a woman, and then take the spots, take the roles, take the small space that women have carved out in the world. And then, we can argue back and forth and be like, oh, the rights of transgender women of color and this, that, and the third. But who is more likely to be bashed on the streets for sharing their views of transgenderism? Is it going to be the transgender women of color, or is it going to be the women, regardless of color, regardless of background, who is trying to speak up for themselves? Because and I'm not sitting here as throwing a pity party of like, oh no, women, we don't have this space, blah, 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 blah. No, it's more like, there are spots that are allotted to women, and we can all agree to that. There's pink collar jobs, this, that, and the third, right? There's pink tax. That's a thing. You can look it up. Why are the places in prominence for women slowly being eked out by men disguising as women?
And
I wanted to piggyback off of that and say that there's a lot of things that are happening with people getting canceled or misgendering people. There's a prominent figure on TikTok who will sit there and record himself, and wait for the waiter or the waitress to call them.
I would just call
"Sir."
them out. Like, fuck it, why not?
They
Why
will-
It's
not?
clickbait.
It's clickbait,
Yeah.
and then it will call a manager to, try and get that person
No, no,
fired.
No.
But
Yeah,
when you
call those guys out.
what worst part is that you don't know if it's a man or a woman, because there's people like James Charles, there's people like Jeffree Star who wear makeup, who wear dresses, who wears heels, but they still identify as men. So that's why it's hard when you are a biological man coming with your natural voice and just have lipstick on. How are we supposed to know that you're a woman if you're not, using an inkling of a bra or a feminine voice? Because there's such a broad spectrum when it comes to gender and sexuality and stuff like that, that we don't know if you're just a gay man with lipstick or a full-fledged on woman.
And why are we living in this delusion where you are highly offended by me misgendering
So-
you when I don't know your background based off of one glance?
Yeah, so here we are. Let's unpack a lot. Addressing your thing about why men can sit here and talk about what's a woman.
I think that's important.
It's really important because it's simple, because some men actually care about women. And you're absolutely right. Look at sports, which is probably one of the most important avenues of
definitely
carved out society for women.
When you talk
And
about
we
the
have,
swimming,
like you said,
as well.
the swimming,
where
we had a guy who wasn't even top 400 for the
Yeah.
men, and surprise, surprise, beats and gets first in this race of swimming for.
You can also talk about
And guess what? Guess who got first? Or guess who even got? No. I believe he got second. He got
tied.
second. He tied,
and they
He
gave him the
tied,
first.
and they had to give him the first spot.
Mhm.
Crazy. And the woman had to hold her tongue because her career would be over.
No, and then I believe, didn't she go on later to speak about how she felt about the unfairness of that situation? And she was almost murdered by a mob on multiple separate occasions because she was not allowed to share how she felt as a woman.
She showed the slightest distaste and sort of pissed offness that she experienced with this decision. And obviously that's wrong think. And so she had to be punished for it. And so she was threatened. But going on to that.
And it's not only just swimming too. It's amazing because we have it in
lifting.
multiple.
Yeah,
that's one of the ones I was going to tell.
Boxing, Alexa Fox in boxing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is crazy.
So
have you seen how she pulverize
I'm sorry.
women? So we're allowing a man to dress up as a woman and punch women in the face. That's fucking wild.
I don't mean to interject.
Here's
Here's
the
Alexa Fox. I'm sorry. I don't
No
mean to
idea.
interject. You don't know who that is?
You have your phone right there.
Could you?
She's
elaborate?
here's this result
Absolutely.
of when we
anybody could do that.
Here's this result of when we dismiss differences and just say that, oh yeah, a man can just arbitrarily call himself a woman. You just mentioned it. Boxing. A man went into a ring with a woman and broke her fucking orbital. Broke the bones around her fucking eye socket. And it was considered a massive triumph in the leftist community. What the fuck? We literally just witnessed a man get thrown into a rink with a woman and are throwing our hands up like, oh, what beautiful progress. Crazy clown world. That's what we're living in.
Sorry.
Dylan Mulvaney.
I would clarify her name is Fallon Fox, not Alexa Fox.
Fallon Fox. That's awfully close to phallus. That's strange. Maybe kind of
coincidence.
I think not.
I was concerned for a minute because I was like looking up Alicia Fox as a boxer, and then it was only saying she, and it wasn't in her, including that she was a transgender, so I was confused.
It was a Fallon Fox, and you can go in and look at his whatever confusion videos, and see.
Here's another thing. Dylan Mulvaney. Everyone should know that name because it's been shoved down your throat.
I don't know who that is.
Dylan Mulvaney. This person has basically has a series about his days as a girl. Girlhood. Day number 500 in girlhood. Oh yeah, that he was Woman of the Year.
Yes, I saw that.
How fucking insulting.
I did see that.
How fucking insulting is that to women?
Is that
Absolutely.
for 2023
Sorry,
or
women.
2022?
You actual women
2023.
can't be good enough women. So we're going to have a dude in a dress with lipstick and makeup who had plastic surgery to make himself have more effeminate features. He's Woman of the Year. Congrats.
Yeah, it was
Congrats.
like prominent women
How
of the world and
crazy is that?
prominent
Caitlyn
women.
Jenner
Mhm,
won
mhm.
also Woman of the Year.
Laverne Fox was on the list of like prominent women who was also transgender.
Mental.
Yeah. So spots
Crazy.
that could have been filled by actual prominent
Yes.
women
What?
have been robbed.
Yeah,
What
show
year was-
these people the aftermath of what it looks like when a woman boxes a man.
What year was it when CoverGirl first introduced the transgender ads?
James Charles was
Can
like
I,
2017.
Okay, I'm talking about much earlier. I remember when that first aired, and I was still pretty young, so I didn't really understand those kind of concepts.
The
So-
massive pervasion of transgender kind of is really in the last half decade.
Right,
So
right.
what he's talking about is a very old article in
Yeah.
CoverGirl.
Pretty old.
There is like this person at the time, you could tell like
Yeah.
100% they were transgender.
Yeah.
He had like probably the sharpest fucking jaw on the planet.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to sound like that guy. It's a she. I feel
Biological?
like such an ass. No, not biological.
Then it's a he.
It's a he.
Anyways, it was a big news article.
Yeah.
I remember my old man complaining about it when I was a kid.
Yeah,
It
mine
was
too.
it was a big
I
thing.
am fine with men being really effeminate.
Yeah,
That's a normal thing.
I think that's normal.
Effeminate men.
Me too.
Effeminate men are just normal, right? They like
I love my American Eagles
And
tightening around my ass cheeks.
the,
Absolutely.
the highest part of that, sort of like scope is men who like to wear dresses and put on makeup.
No.
Fine.
I
But what they're
So-
not, they're not women.
Sorry.
where I stand on the point as a woman, as a biological woman
Yeah.
with
We
an
have to make-
XX chromosome.
Crazy we have to make that
Yes.
distinction, right?
As
in
someone who
2023.
was born with an XX chromosome is, piggying back a little bit off of your point. I don't give a fuck about what you do with your life, right? You want to live and you like Brandon calls it, you want to LARP and you want to say you're a woman, whatever. I'm not necessarily going to call you LARPing, whatever. If you want to live in
I
this
will.
delusion
I will.
and you want to say that you are transgender, whatever, that's cool. That's your life. That's whatever you do
Yeah.
with your life, I do not care about. What I care about is when you go out into the world and you yell at me
Demand.
because I call you a he,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I cannot immediately tell what
And-
your gender is.
Yeah.
and
What
that's
I
concerning.
care about
Here's my
is
problem.
when you
Yeah.
go and you try to take the spot of women that belongs to women and you demand that we give you this.
And
And when
Angie
you
Lilly
go,
is saying all of my contentions.
but I
and
don't-
when
This
you
whole thing.
go in and then you demand that we teach our young children
Oh, hell no.
I have
about,
no.
I have
about
another-
this, and because they're going to
important
see
thing
you
to
outside
put
and
here.
call and say, mommy, look at him, he has a pretty face,
Yeah.
and then demand that we
If
so you're going to demand what if my religious ideology does not line up with what you're saying?
Oh no,
Like,
you can't have religion in the year
no.
2023.
So,
no.
no,
It's
like-
it's leftism or LGBTQ. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as Catholicism.
You can't-
Tell me about it.
Christianity. Those are the far worst things you could be in America right now: is being Catholic or Christian,
Yeah.
or any denomination of religion who has contrarian beliefs to the mainstream.
there is some.
Exactly. So it's I'm just going to finish this one thought.
You're fine.
So it's the point of like rights, right? We're debating, their rights, their whatever, right? And their freedom, because we live in America, the land of the free, to express themselves and be this way. At what point do their rights trump mine?
Here's
Here's
your
at
answer.
what point do my rights not matter anymore?
What they would love, nothing more, and their goal is to make misgendering a hate crime, and you could go to jail and face fines like Canada or the UK. If someone gets offended
I'm
by
sorry.
anything you
do
say,
do they actually do that? Like
Yes.
hate crimes
Yes.
in Canada and
Yes.
UK. So if you misgender someone, like
accidentally misgender
via
somebody,
pronouns,
if you accidentally misgender somebody in Canada, UK, they can call the police and have you arrested.
what are
and
the
fined.
fines? Like what via pounds?
Probably hundreds. It is the most egregious thing you can do.
Do you
This
have
next
do you
topic
have
has
it?
something
This
that
is-
actually includes.
This is what they would love.
Canada.
I'll send it over to you, Marcus, in a second. They would love nothing more for that to happen today. Because
Absolutely.
here's where your rights stop. Because my feelings were hurt. So you have to lose your First Amendment right to speak freely, which
No.
Here's my contention on the freedom of speech thing. It largely is about political speech. But since this is such a political issue, here we are. They would love for you to lose your rights if it meant that they could demand that anybody and everybody had to fall in line with their delusions.
And the sideline of this, of people losing rights, I'm gonna just throw this little tidbit in here, which Eve and I have discussed before. We I don't know if people know where we live. In the state we live in, I don't know if you're aware of this. In the state we live in, parents lose medical autonomy over their children at the age of 13. So if you're
So what is that exactly?
if
Oh.
your 13-year-old at school gets, told about their rights, and if your 13-year-old, think about what you were doing when you were 13.
Yeah.
Half of the people I knew were eating crayons at 13. Okay. Decides that, because they might be confused, and as we've already discussed, they're not getting the correct amount of therapy or counseling for this. If they decide, mommy, I'm transgender and I want to start taking hormone
No.
replacement
They can
medication.
take your children
No.
away from
They,
you.
they
You're
can.
going-
That is the world we're living in right now.
It's a
They
lot worse than
can.
that. Andrew, it's a lot worse than that. They can tell the school
Yes.
and they can prescribe medication to your
Mhm.
child.
I heard about
Without
and not
your
have
consent.
to notify you.
No.
They don't have
and
to
if
notify
you don't give it to them, CPS will come
And take
and
your
take
child.
your child away.
And you see that's
Bad.
Unfortunately,
Bad.
that goes right back to psychology, right? Nature
Yep.
versus nurture, right? That has
Absolutely.
nothing
Okay,
to do
so
with
for the
parents,
past,
right?
so 2
I wanted
minutes.
to piggyback off of the Canada thing real
Okay.
quick. You said it was a couple $100. It's way worse than that. It's $2,500 per offense and 180 days in jail.
Is this in UK or Canada?
It's in Canada.
That's insane. Well,
So-
to be fair,
It's mental.
The Prime Minister of Canada right now.
It's
is a
all
fucking-
mental.
He's a joke. Like logically,
it's all mental.
Like he's
it
a
is
joke.
all. If you don't fall
what's
in
the Prime
line,
Minister's name again? I forgot his
Trudeau.
fucking- yeah, no, he's a fucking joke. I don't.
if
even care.
you don't fall in line with the status quo and the main thing, then you are enemy number one, and you'll be punished for it. Crazy,
No.
stupid.
Justin
stupid.
Trudeau is a fucking moron. Like he
Because
has no
if-
idea how to
if
run a
I
fucking
don't
country.
say I have people coming into work and they are probably transgender. You lose connection with the person, because the last thing I want to ruin my goddamn day is have to debate somebody of why I'm not playing along with their bullshit game. Okay,
Right.
so I just hand over the car. Here it is. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
You lose that detachment. I'm not asking them how their day is, because there's always the risk of possibly running into an issue.
Right.
You
And-
guys want to be treated like
And
humans.
that's like the difference, right? So obviously you're gonna have your opinions and how you.
Okay,
wanna respond.
let's send it over to Marcus, because Marcus
I
needs
have
to
been
read
waiting
something
a little
in the
while.
past like 5
Well,
minutes.
this goes back on the whole transgender stuff with the females facing transgenders in sports and things.
Right.
And this goes off of a lady. I can call her a lady because she even calls herself a female and everything.
Okay.
Her name is April Hutchinson. She is a woman from London,
Okay.
and she has been in the powerlifting career for 7 years now. It has helped her become sober. She has turned from being a drunkard to being sobered. You know, I don't know how drunk and how bad it was for her, obviously. But she had to face against a transgender man, and she spoke out for it, saying it's unfair. And for what it says, for speaking up about males competing against females, the Canadian Powerlifting Union banned her for 2 years from competing.
Wow.
2 years
And you see
over
that's-
the thing that
no,
she's had to change her entire life and like do this to be able to help her.
And you see
from
that's completely
being drunker.
unreasonable. That goes back to patronizing and coddling like certain ethnicities or certain sexualities. Like
Yeah.
you should not be able to do that, because then it segregates the other
Here's
competitors.
the
And-
ultimate consensus
or
on the
other
whole
groups.
transgenderism movement, quote unquote, is a perversion and deceit.
Oh, here
Because all the nice words are like, "Oh, rights." Sorry, newsflash, you have no goddamn rights to tell me what I should call you.
Right.
I could look at you. I could look at you and call you a dumbass. Guess what? There is zero recourse. You just have to move on with your day.
Correct.
Oh, but feelings and all this other stuff. Hey, guess what? I'm gonna respond to you if you freak out on me because I say what you don't think you are.
Correct.
Sorry, you lost your mind. Have a day.
Yeah. Now, and that's like the
Like,
difference
so-
between you and I.
Correction,
Like
they
I would.
can now prosecute
to even
for
put in
slander and
here,
libel.
I have the quote from her when she was talking on the UK broadcaster with Pierre Morgan. She says, "Powerlifting is a pure strength sport," which it is.
Correct.
And she states that biological males have a 60 to 70% chance over females. It's disheartening. Why am I the one being punished for speaking the truth?
Right. And
Like,
and that's
It's such a
unfortunate
simple
as
thing.
it is.
It's like,
Because in
Why would
what
she get banned
world?
for that?
Look at Marcus and look at me. In what world am I competing against Marcus and winning?
and obviously you have like females who who are
Next
on
to Marcus to make it more
literally-
ridiculous.
It literally would be as simple in our world. It's today. It's here of him saying, "I'm a woman."
absolutely.
slapping on a
I
crazy.
can sit
Yep.
here and argue that there's a woman out there that could probably deadlift a lot more than Marcus. Like I can sit here.
Oh,
I know
sure.
there is. I know there is.
But guess
the-
what? The strongest man will outperform that woman any
Oh,
day of the week.
absolutely. Absolutely.
On a drunken stupor,
Would it talk about
could
like
wake up and lift more than her.
Right,
And
like
it-
we
Because
okay, so
biology
we can
is fact.
we can throw the minorities in, which is what the to use the terminology, the left likes to say. They're like, oh well, look at this transgender female, male to female, that is also competing and is outperformed by biological women, right? So you're gonna you can use that to kind of cover up whatever, but you cannot go back to the fact that Y chromosome is the key to unlocking
I got it.
bone density, muscle mass, just pure strength, just different hormones, testosterone. Like, yes, women produce testosterone.
But not as much.
but
as
not as much.
Yeah,
I can
I
can
can
take
throw in here a
steroids,
quick
and I
fact
will
for you.
never. And okay, let's put us in perspective, right? You're
Okay.
slightly smaller, right? Slightly
okay.
slightly thinner than me, whatever,
I'm
right?
a small man.
Okay, but even still, there are things that you will overpower me in. It doesn't matter
Running.
what, right? Like there are things that you will overpower me in because that's just biology. And yeah, you can, and they're like, oh well,
And-
they're on hormone replacement, they're on estrogen.
Which doesn't work.
It doesn't
change
doesn't-
much.
Doesn't
change a lot, no.
the past 20, 30, however many years of your life that you were living with that anatomy.
Before we, I'm going to toss back over.
I
And
have
here's
a-
this.
I have a
With-
quick thing
the
to-
thing is that if the entire argument for why transgenderism is good is because of feelings, because it might make them feel better, but then you have this whole laundry list that we just covered of reasons why it's not good, it doesn't sound like a very good argument.
Mhm.
It doesn't sound like a very good thing overall.
It's not, and that's just how it is, right?
Life.
I feel
I
like
wanna
such
say-
a fucking like a moron for not including actual solutions to this problem because me
I
personally,
already covered it.
I just
The
don't.
solution is make a transgender league. You wanna
No,
be
sure. You
in
can't
bathrooms,
do
go
that.
in your
Sure.
own bathroom.
You can't do that.
Why?
Because
Yes,
if
you can.
make a transgender
Absolutely.
league and if you make transgender bathrooms, then you're segregating a group. or-
Why not?
or-
Okay,
It
no.
was- it
No.
should have already
Okay,
been.
let me go back to this. Is there not a male and female league?
There is a male and
Okay,
female
so
league,
if
yes.
so, why
What's really
is
the
it
difference?
segregation?
Because we also understand that
If-
females cannot compete in the same level as males.
So if we understand
So
that,
why
why
are
can't we
males competing
understand
with
that
females?
transgenders can
right,
compete with
that
females?
should not be a problem, right? That shouldn't
Yeah.
be something that should happen.
So we create a transgender
Transgender
league.
men,
right, but
and
then that
transgender women,
immediately
which
affects
is-
their feelings and emotions whenever you
Too bad.
segregate them from a
Okay,
separate.
bad.
let me
Sorry.
play devil's advocate because I'm gonna throw in here what other people that might have opposing views are gonna throw, and then I'm gonna debunk that. Okay,
That's fair.
So devil's advocate is gonna tell you the reason why transgenderism is bad is because people have gender dysmorphia, because people have this
Which
feeling.
is
okay,
a mental
I'm-
illness, as you
I'm
stated.
a devil's
Yeah.
advocate. They have gender dysmorphia. When they're misgendered, the way they look at themselves in the mirror, they have true hatefulness towards themselves. It can lead to suicide. It can lead to self-harm. It can lead to them not having a good quality of life. It can lead to depression. It can lead to this, that, and the third. Okay, those are facts, right? We know those are facts, gender dysmorphia. Can we all agree that all these things that we're talking about are medical and gender, right?
Yes.
These are all
In a
medical.
way.
These
I
are
think-
all
I think
these are all
that's fair.
medical
Yeah.
medical symptoms of a condition,
Yeah.
Mhm.
correct? Right?
Yeah.
Depression is a medical symptom. Feelings of self-harm is a medical condition.
Correct.
All of these other things that I just stated, are a medical condition, right? So why are we prescribing a sex change for gender dysmorphia? And then why are we treating it?
With
Why are we
indulgence.
treating it
I-
with
in the issue.
societal indulgence?
Yeah. And
Okay,
I feel like that's
Hi.
so let me
shitty.
go back. So then, okay, so
Here's your-
then
your-
devil's advocate, let me rewind this real bit. Okay, so then we're treating this, right? And then if a woman walks into a clinic and she has postpartum depression and she hates her body and she wants to murder her child and she wants to throw her child off a building because she can no longer, she's not bonding with this child, she doesn't have this imprint. We don't go, okay, let's murder your baby. We go, hey, maybe you have postpartum. Maybe you need, this treatment. Maybe you need this, that, and the third. And you can argue that I'm comparing two different things.
No, here's your
but I'm
metaphor.
not.
Here's your metaphor. Alcoholics Anonymous. Hi, welcome to AA. We have the open mini bar over there. Feel free to help yourself.
It's
Same thing.
But
Mental
that's just how it is.
ramification.
It's literally indulgence, as
But
you
it doesn't
stated.
have to be. And it starts with society changing their mentality and realizing that they shouldn't be scared to stand up for shit that they believe
Correct.
in. We need to acknowledge problems that we have in society. We need to acknowledge problems with these delusions that people are perpetuating and accepting and say that, no, this is not healthy. This isn't healthy for the adults. This isn't healthy for the kids. This isn't healthy at all. And it is,
and that's
in fact, complicating society even more.
And that's the trickle down line. Sorry to cut you
Oh,
off
sorry,
again.
we
But
No, it's
gotta-
okay. It's okay.
we
it's
also
okay.
got to change society and the rules of society for
Right.
less than 1%
That's,
of the
that's
population.
the trickle down
Yeah.
line because it's like what you were saying, this leads to this, leads to that, right? So we're accepting this. But then now it is public. So now I have to educate. So then now we have,
Crazy.
it's a trickle down. It doesn't end. There is no end to this train.
Here's another thing to add on to the point that you were saying is if I'm a biological female and I have breast cancer and they have to remove both my breasts, I can't go to the doctor and ask them for breast augmentation because it's cosmetic. But if any of you men will go into the office and say, I don't feel like I'm a woman, I need this breast, it's considered gender affirming care and it's 100% free.
How
But me,
ass
There's no way.
backward.
no,
It is.
yes,
though that's kind of
100%.
There's no
You
way.
could go get a breast augmentation 100%
Does
free
this,
because
is this limited to like certain states? Or is it,
no,
like,
no
federally?
federal.
No way.
It
You
is
can go
covered
in
under
there and
insurance.
say,
So I could go to like anywhere right now
Yep.
and just get some fucking boobs.
yes.
There's no fucking way.
Well, you have to say first part is going to that 20 minutes, conference and saying,
Right,
no,
right.
I'm a woman. And they go, okay, cool. Your appointment is Tuesday.
There's no way.
It is 100% true.
Wow.
So
So,
even-
is that
This
why it's so
is
easy
how
to fully
far they will-
transition?
This is why it's so hard that they patronize you and treat you like you're nothing because they're profiting off of you wanting breast
All right, we're
augmentation.
gonna send it over to Marcus, who has been bursting. At
Oh no,
this.
sorry. I was saying this because
You looked like a radish with how fucking red you were, ready to fucking give these statistics.
So no, going back on the powerlifting and the statistics and everything.
Yeah.
Stuck on that
Current
powerlifting.
biological woman. Well, I wanted to be able to put this point out there.
Mhm.
Current biological woman. This is also a rough estimate because I'm just
People are
googling things here. But biological woman, 305 kilograms, 672 pounds. That's the world record for a biological woman.
You said
So,
370
wow.
pounds.
To lift?
Which was just
672
flown
pounds
by a
for deadlifting?
transgender.
deadlifting.
That's pretty
That is-
impressive.
That's impressive as fuck. But
I can't even lift
switch over
100.
to a biological male, you have 501 kilograms, which is over 1,100 pounds.
That's a 500-pound difference.
1,100 pounds.
So we obviously
It's around
understand that
440-ish something.
the
pounds
individual who
between
did 7 years of powerlifting and she had to compete against a transgender
Yeah.
female. So transition from male. How
That's
much
the-
did he powerlift against her? That'd be
I
something
could-
I'd
yeah.
actually
I would have to
actually-
Google
yeah,
that.
but I
Don't
can
forget
get
to
that in.
mention
Is
that
it-
the new powerlifting record is held by a man
Yeah.
in female sports.
Yep.
The new swim record is held by a man
Yeah,
in female
yeah.
sports.
The
Is it-
swimming thing we
is it?
discussed.
And
The
by
new
the
run
way,
record
their
is-
ranking in
Mhm.
their male ranking is not even top
yeah,
100.
not even top
Oh, yeah.
100. No.
So is it any wonder why these people who
Go
are
to
literally
women.
so underperforming in their leagues
Mhm.
switch over to an easy medal winning?
I'm not.
Coincidence? no, coincidence. I think not.
No, I'm willing to state that there's
Again,
no
make
way
their own
because
league.
I could not I don't want to say it like in a sense where because that sounds like excessive. You know what I mean? To sit here and be like, oh, my career's not going anywhere. Oh, I'm not succeeding in the field that I want to pursue in. So maybe I should just switch genders and fully transition.
It
Just-
might
No, no,
sound
Oscar.
ludicrous.
That's excessive. There's no way.
It
Hold
may
on.
sound
I got
ludicrous
There's no
to you.
full transition. There's just like I'm a woman. I have taken estrogen once in the past year.
Mhm.
That is
So-
it.
They don't
No,
go through
I
the
can't.
surgery.
I
They don't
can't.
go
So
through the
you
surgery.
may
fathom
not
that.
be
I'm
able to
sorry.
fathom it, Oscar, but the amount of dedication people put into a sport, the moment they say, I put all this work in, I deserve a win. The things people will do to achieve that win will blow your fucking
And I
mind.
understand that, but
People
to-
don't cheat to win, they cheat
to
to get.
completely change your lifestyle, your sexuality, your gender, and not even that.
I've
now
already-
that you
In
have
front of the
I've
cameras.
already
yeah,
covered.
now
In front
that,
of the cameras.
Yeah, literally now
I've
that
already
you've done
covered.
this in front of
They
the
don't
cameras,
have to.
You literally have to live like this for the rest of your life.
No,
I don't-
in front of the
I'm
cameras.
not telling you. I'm literally telling you. They don't have to do any of that shit. Process. I'm a woman. I have taken estrogen at least once in a year. They don't have to change literally anything else.
I feel so ignorant for
let
not being
me
able to
show you
fathom this.
this.
I can't. I literally cannot. It's insane.
because you
to
thought
even-
this was a perfect system that is just working and is good for
No, no,
everybody in
I
society.
knew it wasn't perfect. I just didn't think it was that.
I think it's
flawed.
usual. It's good
Yeah.
to. It's
Don't
good
feel
to,
ignorant.
I'm
feel
gonna
proud that you
show
know.
That's
this
insane.
picture of the person we were talking about
I
formerly,
definitely
Leah
know
Thomas.
who. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to show you this picture. Does this person look like
No.
they are going
no.
through transition?
I'm sorry.
No.
I saw the triceps and was like, no.
No.
Does this person look
No.
like they are genuinely going through this change because this is something that they actually believe in?
It's already been years.
No.
Or does this person look like a man who grew out his hair? Kind of looks like Cornette with all that long blonde hair,
Yeah.
right? And look, I can see the junk in the little. Look at that. Is that not a junk? Is that not
Yes,
junk? Right
that
there?
is that is
that's
that
junk.
is
It is
male
literally,
genitalia. That
all
is
these athletes.
that is a
literally
penis.
as simple as saying you're a woman and maybe have taken estrogen at least once.
There's no
There's no
breast,
criteria.
no.
I
There's
just
nothing.
can't.
And even on estrogen and taking all these things and doing the whole things, guess what doesn't really disappear?
Muscle
Unless
density.
you fully remove your testicles and you produce 0 testosterone.
In which case you are forced
All
to
your
take
performance.
estrogen for the
I
rest of your
feel
life.
I feel
Yep.
genuinely like, how do
Oh,
I
no.
say this?
Oh,
like
here's another thing.
genuinely stupid, but that's just how it is. It
It's
sucks.
bad.
But
Yeah,
it's
it
but
It's
really
why?
bad.
is.
So
It really
why
is.
should we sit here and be like, no, it's good though, because these less than 1% of the population's feelings.
It's weird because one, obviously, like there was a time frame where I was like, okay, feelings should not matter over actual facts. Like fact takes precedence.
Why would that have changed?
Fact takes precedence. It changed because people genuinely care
so
more about their emotions and their feelings over
and
facts.
emotions,
And that's just how
but
it is.
it's feelings, emotions, but it's the wrong people's feelings and emotions. So we're prioritizing this person's feelings and emotions over another.
It doesn't make sense. I think that this small group of people, I think that their feelings are more validated than anybody else's. People who have lost their jobs, who have lost their livelihoods, who have lost their families, who have lost everything because they said, no, I don't subscribe to this horseshit. Where are their feelings?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're the enemy.
And you see,
you didn't believe in the correct
that's the
thing.
problem, right? We don't want to. Me personally, I don't think there should be a transgender league. I don't think there should be transgender because that includes that pretty much encourages segregation. in
Yeah,
a sense,
sure.
for a group. But that goes back to exactly what you were
Sure.
stating,
but
right?
why is it segregation?
We already
this
have
is where you're
segregation.
getting me.
We already
because
have
we already have
segregation.
male and female leagues.
Right.
So why is it segregation?
If they want transgender sports,
Because transgenders are completely separate from the biological male and the female, because these are how individuals
fine.
are
You're
identified.
That's fine.
Right?
That is fine.
But
Male
How about
if
this?
we're
Female
going
are
down, okay,
separate.
so the
I have a
Right.
solution then. Transgender
But
females
that's
play in a male
transgender
league
would be
because they're
separate as
men.
well.
No, okay, so I just don't understand
wanna
where
create
your
separation.
thought process is coming from, where you're saying it's segregation because we already have a male and female league. So because we know and we identify that there are biological differences between these two individuals. We know and identify
Here's
that
your
there are
answer.
biological
Because it
differences
might make them feel
between-
bad.
Okay, exactly. So how is it? It's not segregation.
That's exactly correct. Like the way he's stating it, it
Well,
makes them feel bad.
Okay, so what about the feelings of all the women that are already in
and
that?
that's what I'm insinuating.
Oh
right?
my giddy aunt. According to Daily Mail, trans swimmer Leah Thomas dropped her pants and exposed her male genitalia in a women's locker room after a meet, claims University of Kentucky athlete Riley.
Okay, but this is
Gaines.
Daily Mail. Is that UK? DailyMail.uk, right?
This is a thing from Riley Gaines who is reporting it.
Yeah, but Daily Mail is a UK news outlet. No, if I'm not mistaken,
I have no idea.
it could be a.
Well, I mean, they would also have to say and take legal responsibility by quoting Riley Gaines of saying that.
It's
So-
just there's obvious forms
Well,
of
I mean-
journalism where it leans more left
I
or
mean,
leans
let's
more
also
right,
look
and
at
it's
all
going to be
the
incredibly biased.
Let's also look at the reports of transgender people assaulting people in school bathrooms.
I haven't seen those statistics, but I know it's very real.
It's happened a lot.
Yeah,
Guess what
I know
happened?
it's very real.
Teenage boy says he's a girl, wear a skirt, raped a girl inside of a school bathroom. There was nothing really done. He was moved to another school.
No.
Did the same thing again. Nothing was really done. Moved to a different school. I don't know what goes on after that, but the fact that he is untouchable because he thinks he's a girl
That's a problem.
is fucking crazy.
But that's
Or
what
the
I'm trying to touch on.
statistics
Like
of
that's
now pedophiles that are identifying as females. Oh, we're not even going to touch the maps. I'm just going to touch the statistics of people who have previously presented sexual misconduct and have previously already been flagged for sexual misconduct. And now I'm going to identify as female, and not taking this away from the people that genuinely have that gender dysmorphia.
right.
I'm talking
we
about-
already classified that's a mental illness. Like that's a thing.
Okay, so not taking this away. I'm talking about the people that have already been flagged for sexual misconduct, and they're like, I can now say I'm a lady and go into the ladies' room. Now I can watch the mommies take the little babies and put them in the changing tables and change them, and I can go in and watch the ladies walk into the ladies' room, and I can pretend I didn't see that door, because how many ladies' bathrooms have we been in that don't close properly and just go poop? Oops, I'm so sorry, and
Yeah. There's so many problems when you accept these crazy ideologies, and That's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to insinuate.
It's the nature of
as
the.
well.
I know. Yeah, the nature of the beast is because society largely accepts this crap.
But
The
point
solution
beast can
is-
change.
The solution is realizing that to go about and helping these people is to not feed into their delusions
Yeah.
and indulge in their malady,
Mhm.
which is causing so many problems, not only in their own psyche, but across the country.
Yeah,
It is literally affecting other people.
I'm convinced hundreds of years from now, people are going to look back at all this bullshit and be like, what crack were they smoking?
yeah.
Like,
all of
to
it.
be
Yeah,
I
honest.
hope
for sure.
so.
Because if we
I
go
hope.
back 50 years, this was not a thing. So
No.
that's why I'm boggled when people are like, well, we can talk about it and it's not going to change. 50 years ago, it didn't exist. So clearly it changed.
All it does is it takes a group of people to stand up and say, no, sorry,
Yeah.
no, you're not going to come
Overthrow.
over here and dictate what I get to call people or what I get to say.
But sadly,
that's
those
the
people
thing.
are labeled religious fanatics.
Like every
Right.
one of
Let
those
them
people
meet
have an
me.
opinion.
I am wearing a rosary right now.
Everyone has an opinion to
That was
identify as however they want,
coincidental.
right? And everyone has an opinion of how they want to identify another individual. That
No,
is
not
simply
really.
how I view things, right? It is utterly simple. However, right, it comes completely back full circle, right? When we talk about transgender leagues and transgender bathrooms, right? How I view that as segregation, it comes right back to how, okay, well, what about the biologicals, right? The biological male and the biological female. And when we interject these transgenders into the
You mean
sports,
the
or
99
right.
other percent of the United
Yeah.
States population.
you are segregating these individuals now. It's completely
It's not
contradictory.
segregation.
It is completely contradictory.
I
No matter
completely
what you
disagree.
do,
No, it
there-
isn't.
Either side
It
loses.
isn't because we're not basing it off of the ideas of race or religion or a creed. It is
Right.
based off of
feelings.
genetic
Literally.
difference.
Yeah, you're basing it off of
It's
the
off
emotion
gender
of the other
difference.
individual.
Really, is what they want it to be, which is why we have a male and female league. And if we don't want to have the segregated leagues or a transgender league because it makes them feel some sort of way, okay,
Right.
cool. They get to play in their biological.
Yes, and I honestly, I've given it some thought. I don't see any issue with that, right? If a transgender
I see lots of issues.
male, right?
Yeah, and
if
most of them are
if-
from the contestants
if
who
there-
would
if
throw up
there's
their
a-
arms and protest.
if there's a female transitioning to a male, if that individual feels like they can partake in male leagues, then
Nope.
fuck it, right?
Nope.
But this
Nope,
is
nope,
this
nope,
is
nope.
where
Yeah,
I will give
don't
it to them.
want to see.
Fuck it,
But
right?
no. This is where I do give it to the transgender community when they say that they fear for their safety in those situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I absolutely give it to if you walk into an NFL locker room with heels and makeup and boobs, you're gonna get the shit beat out of you, and that's a fact.
Fuck
That's
it.
that's
And
a
you're a
fact.
man.
I hate to say that fuck it mentality, but that's what you signed up for. In my opinion, that is what you
And
signed
this
up
is coming down to people making their own decisions. They
Yeah,
have to face
absolutely.
ramifications. But
for.
right
That-
now,
these are the rules.
but
these
right
are the
now,
laws.
I would just like
societally,
to point
there
out
are
that-
zero ramifications. In fact, they are probably on the top of society. They get to do whatever the fuck they want. They get to steal clothes out of airports and then not really face any ramifications. They get to do all sorts of things. Yeah, there was a public official who basically stole woman's clothes suitcase from an airport. Was caught. She found out because the woman had made the dress that he was wearing on social media. Yeah, that was
I've
really
never
awkward.
heard of
Yeah, it
this.
wasn't
I
the
saw
first
this.
occurrence.
I saw
Wasn't the
this.
first occurrence either. Done it plenty of times before, and that's how he gets his wardrobe. We're gonna digress a little bit here. We have another show to film, so we're going to leave it there. Next episode, though, I hope you guys have questions. But anyway, as usual, have a good one.
Fuck.
That one is